Why do you want them to listen to your podcast?
So that when they think about starting a business, they've got the content that is pointing them in the right direction.
That is such a valuable piece of advice there.
The change in mindset makes a massive difference.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars.
Hey, Gavin, welcome back to the dungeon. How you doing?
Good, mate. How are you?
Oh, look, I couldn't sleep at night because I was sitting there going, when we were in the dungeon, we kept it really PG and we need a black label edition. So we've got to uncover some secrets today. And one of those secrets is your obsession with strange little trucks.
Yeah, I'm not going to take my clothes off for you, that's for sure.
Okay, I'm not taking mine off either. So we'll keep it somewhat PG, but we got some serious stuff to talk about today. So, the one thing we didn't mention in the previous sessions we did was the unique vehicle you've got for your business.
Yeah, so I'm running a Daihatsu Hijet, which is a Japanese Kei Truck. It's a small little mini truck that, it's very fuel efficient, bit of a head turner. It's a very small car. Can't tow a trailer with it. Well, you can, but it's very low capacity, so it's not suitable for your ride-ons or anything like that. But like I've said to you in the previous conversations, that I mostly subcontract that work out to other professionals in the industry, and I have no interest in doing it at this stage of my business at the moment.
So a Kei Truck, the Daihatsu Hijet, I was going to spoonerise that for a second, but we'll try and keep it in the right direction. They got like a 600cc engine in it, or?
Correct, yeah. 600cc, no turbo in it yet.
Yeah, okay. And probably capable of 60, 65 kilometres an hour.
No, it can go 140, but
wow.
It struggles to get up to that. I've only had it up at that once.
On a racetrack, of course.
Yeah, on a racetrack. Yeah, not on the freeway, that's for sure. Put in that one.
I can't imagine a Kei Truck on the racetrack.
No, it'd be hilarious. But like I said, look, it's a very capable vehicle. They are. It's actually 4-wheel drive. Funnily enough, a lot of people don't realise that.
I didn't know if they were all 4-wheel drive or just some of them.
I think just some of them are. The one I've got is a 4-wheel drive. Look, I'm working inner east to urban Melbourne, and it's, small vehicles for parking in and around Prahran and Canterbury, Toorak, and some of the inner city suburbs. It's fantastic. It's really easy to manoeuvre.
Yeah.
And, the low capacity, like I can still get a 2 metres of green waste on the back of it in wool sacks.
Probably not 2 metres of topsoil, though.
No. I can get a metre on there just.
that would be above its load limit, I reckon, because a metre is pretty close to a tonne.
Yeah, it's only I've put well over the load capacity in it a couple of times, and probably shouldn't have done it, but
on a racetrack, of course.
Yeah, on a racetrack, of course. But I have heard stories of other people putting, a tonne and a half on them on farms and stuff like that. So they're very capable little vehicles. Look, for bigger jobs, when I'm doing a large cleanup or something like that, I just get skips these days. And there's, Blue Croc is a company here that cranes large bags off the nature strip, so you don't have to pay your fees to the council to put a skip on the street or something like that. So it's a very functional service, and it's comparable with the prices that I'm selling. I'm still making a little bit of profit on each of those bags, and also the skips and stuff like that. I make plenty off of those.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, look, for me, if I'm doing a big cleanup anyway, I don't want to be going to the tip if I don't have to.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's like if I can get rid of it right away, it's less. It means I can go straight home after the job. I'm not having to, spend an extra half hour, 45 minutes. I've also got Green Wheelie, a large 1,000-litre skip at home.
Okay, yep.
So instead of going to the tip, I use that, and I just get that emptied whenever I need to, and it usually works out to be about $100 an empty.
Yeah.
Same reason, like an hour of time for me to round trip plus the tip fees. I'd rather have an early finish and just empty it at home, personally. That's just how I see it. From a business standpoint, it's cheaper as well with the skip. But yeah, the truck, like I said, the truck's fantastic. I've got a 3.5 meter ladder on top with a ladder rack and big size toolbox with all my tools in it, and doesn't skip a beat. It's been a year since I've been using it, and the company I was working for, Gardner and Son, were actually using them as well, and they'd actually bought 3 of them by the end of the time that I was working with them.
The Kei Truck?
Yeah, they'd actually started implementing. So that's where I got the idea. So it wasn't completely solely my idea. And I got to try out the idea working for them. I had been thinking about them for a few years prior to working with them. So it was interesting to see that they'd actually purchased one prior to me starting there. And so it was kind of good to get to test the idea out with them.
Yeah.
And mine's slightly different. I've made some different modifications to it. And yeah, it's, like I said, like I'm doing landscaping with it. I'm doing garden maintenance with it. It's, I can still manage to do everything. Like, it's just, you just got to think about, like, I plan things a little bit more ahead. I'm getting things delivered as opposed to picking stuff up.
Yep.
And that's just, you just got to roll that into your quotes, make sure you're accounting for those delivery fees. And
yeah.
There's one other thing we didn't really touch on just then about the truck.
Yeah.
The cost of purchasing one of these vehicles is very, very enticing for starting off a new small business. And for me, that was one of the big draws to getting one of these vehicles, because it meant I wasn't taking a huge risk in buying a new larger vehicle, like a Hilux, which, you're looking at 70, 80K for a Hilux, where comparably with this, it was $22,000 with about 40,000 K on it. And it was pretty much brand new, Nick, when I had a look at it. I actually looked at that between that and a newie.
Yeah.
A new one was 33, but with 40,000 on it and the condition that it was in, I just went with the second-hand one in this case. And it's a really good start-off vehicle. I think if you've just got to be realistic with what you're doing with it, though, and be aware that there is limitations, and that you can't have a ride-on with it. You can't do the larger equipment side of things.
Yeah.
But if you're working in an urban environment like myself, it makes a lot of sense financially.
So, couple of questions there. Does it have air conditioning?
Yeah, absolutely. It's got a touch screen, really good sound system.
Yeah. And it's not going to be the fastest vehicle in the world, but it's still adequate.
Yeah.
Do you know what the actual load capacity is in the back?
350.
Okay, yep. So it is limiting in that regard.
Yep.
But you could easily put a equipment defender rack or green touch rack on the back there, carry your tools on a rack so that they're out of the way.
Well, I've got a toolbox on mine. I'll send you some photos anyway, and you can have a look at it and maybe chuck it in the video for everyone.
I saw one pop up this week. So after talking to you about Kei Trucks, it's like the internet was listening to me. And
does that sometimes, doesn't it?
This one that popped up had a scissor lift on the back of it.
Yeah,
so if you've got the one with the scissor lift on the back and some turf tyres, I'm not sure how you go with turf tyres and road legal, but some turf tyres on it and a scissor lift on the back, it would be an awesome tool for doing hedges.
Absolutely. And look, that's part of the beauty of it. Is I've just recently finished a landscaping job in St Kilda, and it's right near a school. So parking in the morning is an absolute nightmare. So I'd come in there and just park up on the nature strip. It fit perfectly in the nature strip. Wasn't hanging over the edge of the path or anything. And these are small, narrow nature strips too. Like, they're not your larger nature strips that I know are in some suburbs, but. It wasn't a problem. Just plonked it straight there. Doesn't even indent on the lawn, at all. Like, I know it's not the best thing to do for the lawn, but because they're so light, 2 people can lift up the end of it.
Well, that's the thing. So if your tyres are half decent width, then the tyre pressure is going to be similar to that of a ride-on lawnmower.
Yep. Well, what ride-ons are close to a ton, aren't they? Some of them.
I've had some vary between 250 kilos and 600 kilos. So, yeah, you can.
We had the Toro Zero. One of the Toro Zero turns at Lucas was one of the larger machines, and I think that was close to a ton in weight.
Yeah, I think you'll find most of them are going to be around 500 or less, but I know some of the bigger ones are going to be up around 500 or 600 kgs, and if you got the diesel motor, then yeah, they're going to be up closer to the ton.
Yeah, I think this was one of the diesel ones. It was a larger zero turn.
Yeah,
and yeah, like very heavy, and like you go onto a wet lawn with that, and it's going to tear it up quite quickly.
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, it's a look. Like I said, there's a lot, and they've got ones with tippers and stuff like that. And I'm kind of looking future wise as the business scales. I might even buy one for the offsite at $22,000 or $30,000,
Yeah.
and then we have two vehicles running. We can fill one up for green waste if I really wanted to, and you've just got an empty tray on the other one with a tipper on it.
Yeah.
You could do it that way.
You could get the one that's scissor lift and tipper, and then you're laughing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to buy another ladder. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. That's a ways away at this stage. I could put someone on now, but I'm holding off to finish some studies early next year.
Yeah.
Probably next financial year, I'd put someone on. I think at this stage, just want to get my systems right and kind of build a good foundation before I bring someone on.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think that's one of the topics which I need to delve into more on this podcast. Not this episode now, but in general, is people going through that transition from being solo to putting on their first employee, and good ways to do it, bad ways to do it.
For me, what I'm probably going to do eventually when I get to that stage is, I'm going to have enough capital there to support them for at least half a year, and then slowly onboard new clients and run it at a small loss just to begin with. It probably won't be too long. It'll probably be a month before I've got the books full enough. But and that's probably just how I'll do it at the start, and it'll be a bit of a hustle to begin with. But yeah, that's the advice I've been given.
Yeah.
At the start from a few people. So don't know if that's helpful for everyone else out there, but
yeah, I think that is pretty helpful advice. It's not always the way people will do it, but I think there's a lot of value in having that approach of making sure you've got that backup, that collateral ready to keep you sufficient while you get their schedule full.
Yeah. And look, I probably first hire actually probably be administrator. I think actually it probably won't be someone on the tools with me. I think I'll probably get someone just handling a bit of the admin and the bookwork first, maybe part-time.
Yeah.
Free me up for one day extra to do some more work on the tools. And that's kind of where my head's at the moment with it, scaling wise. It's little ways away still.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I'm not trying to rush into things too quickly, and I have a tendency to take on too much. So I'm being a bit more conservative in my older age.
Yeah. So personal habits like that are going to come up in this episode because we want to talk about some of the things that have challenged you along the way. And I think we've got some shared challenges in this regard that we mentioned on one of the previous sessions that you had some issues with alcohol and drugs at various points in your life, certainly from a very young age. And want to take a bit more of a deeper dive into these topics and, mental health warning for people that are struggling with these things. So it's going to be a very deep dive for you. Hopefully it's helpful, and there are some good numbers you can call if you are struggling with needing help at the moment. And Lifeline is the first place I refer people to. TX is a great place as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with Gary on this. It's, seek help if you need it. And I think that's a good place to start this conversation that we're about to have. So Gary, where do we want to start with this?
Well, we mentioned in previous session that from a very early age you were introduced to substances, so alcohol, drugs, multiple different drugs, not just the light, fluffy stuff.
Yeah, so look, for me, my life experience was that, I had a lot of high school and primary school friends that had families that had heavy drug use that was in their environment, and I partaked with them at an experimental stage when I was quite young to start with. It was a very social thing. It's funny though, like for a long time I pushed back against the social pressure of it all and actually said, no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And, it's funny, like that resistance actually ended up probably hindering my experience with my friends and stuff and made me feel a little bit more isolated from them. And eventually made me take more of the substances long term because I felt so isolated. Which I'm not saying go out and take drugs if you're getting peer pressured, but it's just an insight to my own psyche that I'm kind of referring to.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's important when talking about these issues is the different things that go on. There are multiple different ways that these things will impact you emotionally and psychologically. It's quite it's not just a simple two-dimensional thing, is it?
It's not one size fits all. We're all very, very different creatures, and we all experience things in very, very different ways. And we've all been influenced by different ways of thinking and living.
Yep. And I was just talking to you about some of my experiences in my younger life as well. And I had friends who were into marijuana, pot, whatever. Opportunity for me to try it or encouraged to try it. I never felt the desire to try it at all. It's just one of those things. And maybe it was a little bit socially isolating because I didn't participate. But at the same time, I didn't have the desire to participate. I was like, well, you guys do that. I don't really want to, and whatever. But I did find through my childhood, so similar young age, that, various challenges in life, I found emotional pain in many different ways in my life. And at an early age, I was introduced to pornography very early and too early, right? But that seems to be normal. And so that for me, the addiction to pornography was similar to what you're dealing with substance abuse in terms of numbing the pain.
It's interesting. Like, I think the porn was actually around for me before the substances. I was exposed to it quite young. My family environment, my dad was a mechanic, so you can remember what the old mechanics shops were like. Lots of Playboy around, and I was quite exposed to that, and my way of coping was definitely with my social anxiety and my trouble at home was leaning into porn addiction and substance abuse, and it definitely filled the void and helped with that experience from time to time. It's as I progressed through life, the alcohol and the drugs, like I was taking meth, MDMA, ketamine quite regularly. Like, this is on a daily basis. For a good 10 years there, not just small amounts. This was quite substantial quantities of these substances. Which led to later a lot of health issues and a myriad of other things. But for me, it was a coping mechanism. My anxiety, my social anxiety, my lack of self-worth and feeling isolation. A lot of the time, I think culturally, I've really struggled with that at times. It helped, and dealing with the pain and the suffering that I went through day to day. But I got through those experiences, and found meaning in things that have filled up my cup a little bit differently now, and found fulfillment in other things. It's it's tough, and we all struggle with this stuff. I think everyone's got something that they're fighting at some point or another, like yourself.
Yeah, well, social anxieties are sorts of things which can make life really challenging, and any sort of insecurity or anxiety can be a massive challenge for people. Not everyone's going to struggle with that, but most people are going to, at some stage, have the realization that a little bit of alcohol makes life a whole lot easier.
Takes the edge off, that's for sure.
Whether it's alcohol or pornography or some other substance or some other habitual addiction, there's a multitude of things which human nature is such that you go, oh, wow, that's a painkiller. It helps me to numb pain, or it helps me to be distracted from life and to find a place where I can zone out and, get that little dopamine kick. And so, yeah, certainly that's from an early age, a lot of people are in situations where that's very easy to go, oh, there's a dopamine kick and I really enjoy that. It's better than real life.
Yeah, and arguably, with both our porn addiction, arguably it's probably a little bit less detrimental to your life than, say, substance abuse and the stuff that I went through in my earlier part of my life. But it's funny, like I've struggled with this quite extensively, even after the drug and alcohol abuse subsided, and it's a lot more challenging, I think, with our modern technology and our devices and how readily available it is now. It's a quick and easy fix, and it definitely helps people. Well, it doesn't help. It can detrimentally affect your life. I think it's understated how much it actually can wane your physiological capabilities to manage yourself and actually interact with other people and engage with the world.
It's interesting looking at how different things affect people, and substance abuse, I think, takes you over the edge to the point of desperation where you start forgetting about social expectations and norms and just going, I don't really care, I'll kill somebody or I'll be a prostitute or whatever it takes to get the next hit, right? And seeing some of the ways substance abuse can totally destroy somebody like that because of sheer desperation, it's heartbreaking to see it. But habitual addictions also will take you to a point of similar. Often they are more hidden. It's hard to hide substance abuse as well as it is some other forms of habitual addiction. But often just being exposed is enough. Interesting word, exposed. is enough to put you off some sort of sexual addiction. But it's one of those things where you will find yourself desperate, and you will find yourself so like the actual brain patterns, they say, are very similar between different types of addiction, whether it's substance abuse or an habitual addiction like that. And you find you're wasting your life away, or you're wasting your time and your brain power, so to the point where your brain no longer functions like it's supposed to.
Yeah. And look, I draw direct parallels to the feelings and sensations that I would feel after heavy substance abuse and use. The after effects, or the come down, as you'd call it, to use a cultural term, is very comparable. Like, and I'm saying that these sensations and feelings that you get, the detrimental effects of your cognitive ability from them are very, very, very akin to each other. And look, this isn't to say that it's as detrimental and it shouldn't be shamed. Like, I think shame's a big thing that we need to probably touch on at some stage when it comes to drug and alcohol use and porn and alcohol and sex addiction. It's not something to be ashamed of. We're only human. We all struggle with things day to day. And it's not something to be. We need to talk about these things. We need to have conversations about them with our friends and our peers and the people in our community, because that's that's actually what's going to help us get out the other side of it.
Well, let's talk about a couple of positives in this
Yep.
gloomy or very challenging topic in the dungeon.
Yeah.
So one of the things is that along with the damage you're doing to your brain, there's also the recognition that using your brain can help you overcome these things. So cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the therapy modalities that has the best success when it comes to changing patterns of behavior, habits, and addictions. So what I have seen is that, going back to what you're talking about, shame, the stigma or the shame that you attach to an addiction, and particularly a habitual addiction like pornography, is something which you hide and you don't talk about, and you will let that shame drive you to repeating the addiction. And the best thing I have come across, absolute best thing I've come across as part of cognitive behavioral approach to this, is to recognize that the pattern of behavior, the choice that you make to participate in an addiction, is actually something you're doing to help yourself. It's just not actually helpful, but your desire, your choice comes from a place of trying to help yourself. And so what I have found is really helpful in this situation is for people to start cognitively recognizing when they make a choice that is part of that addictive habitual process, to start going, that's actually a good part of me. That's actually something I'm doing from a good place to try and help myself. The actual behavior might not be helpful, but the choice to participate in that behavior is one of trying to deal with pain. And I need to learn some better ways of dealing with pain, but at least that's what I'm trying to do. I am trying to deal with pain. And that's a pattern of behavior that is well recognized, and majority of people will choose to deal with pain in various different ways, but one of them is to numb the pain. And so substance abuse and any form of addiction is numbing the pain one way or another. So once you can start processing that cognitively and going, okay, I was actually making a choice to help myself, to do something positive, then you can start dismissing the shame, because there's no shame in it. It's actually something you did from a positive place. Then you got to start going, okay, the behavior choice that I made doesn't have a positive result. So can I make another choice, a better choice to deal with the pain next time?
Yeah, and that's something that I've learnt through my earlier addictions, is that finding that different space to fill is quite empowering. And you knowing that you have a choice to make here with what you do after that pain, and being self-aware enough to find that space and go, okay, I'm going to choose a different action after this point, is a very empowering thing for people. Because I know when I was in the throes of it all, I definitely had moments of disempowerment and unfulfilled, and just felt bottom of the barrel, like I had no control over anything in my life. And once you realize that you can take control, and whether you've gone through some horrific traumas in your past or whatever you've had happen to you throughout your life, what you do the next day, or that day, probably best that day, is your choice. You can choose to live your different lifestyle and a different way of being, and it's becoming aware. And you're not going to do these things straight away. It takes a few tries, and you're going to stumble, you're going to fall. I've picked myself up, I can't imagine how many times over the years, and the amount of times I ended up in hospital, and in some pretty heavy places that not a lot of people want to end up. Look, it's not going to hold you back if you just talk about it with people and make those decisions to change your lifestyle and change the way that you are situating yourself. You've got control.
Part of dismissing the shame is also recognition that the patterns of behavior didn't start from a bad
Place.
place. And for your story and my story, the pornography or the drugs weren't something you were doing as a self-harm. It was something you're doing as self-help. And obviously it's not that helpful, but, there's nothing wrong with enjoying something in life. There's nothing wrong with there's beauty in sex and there's beauty in different things that you can do in life. And some of those substances, if you have them as a once-off experience, or even alcohol in a social environment where you're not an alcoholic, a lot of people can do that without any negative effect at all. However, and I think this is probably true of alcohol too, if you've formed a habit of going, oh yeah, that feels good when I have that, when it feels good when I look at pornography, or that feels good when I drink some alcohol, or when I smoke marijuana, or whatever.
Even eat a cake, like you could look at food as another one that's classically. Yes,
eating disorders are pretty much the same in that regard, and it's a case of going, okay, that feels good, that tastes good, that looks good, that is nice, and it's enjoyable. And then when my dad said something negative and I felt bad, oh, I know what I can do that makes me feel good. When my wife said something that makes me feel bad or emasculated or, whatever it might be, oh, I know something I can do that makes me feel good.
And it's even the way that we frame those emotions and how we look at those feelings and expressions of what we're feeling in the time and the moment. I think we tend to put negative spins on, say, stress management or even just feeling bad's kind of like, we're not always meant to feel good, and that's okay. We can have days where we're feeling shit, and that's fine. Sorry for swearing.
But
it's appropriate. But that's what I'm saying. Like it's you're not always going to feel good, and that's okay. And just being self-aware enough to go, okay, I'm not feeling good today, so maybe I need to do some stuff that's going to, take the edge off in a different way. That's, not going to create a shame spiral. It's not going to make me feel bad 2 days, a day later. And it just takes time to develop those skills, and you just don't give up on them and keep trying. It's.
Well, I'm gonna risk saying something that will get me in a lot of trouble here, but alcohol and heavier drugs are not the only culprits here. Caffeine is another one that I find really interesting, and it's the same process that you're going through mentally in your brain of, oh, when I have caffeine, that makes me feel more alert. And, oh, now if I have another caffeine that makes me feel more alert again. And, oh, now I've just got to have a caffeine hit every morning, and then after a couple of hours, another one, and I've got to have 8 caffeine hits a day just so that I feel alert.
I'd even apply that to TV. Like I think I still struggle with TV quite a bit these days. I'll put my hand up. I just binge watched a bunch of stuff on Sunday, and I couldn't get apart from myself, Like I was like, oh, this is good. This feels good. Feels better than the pain that I'm feeling in my lower back at the moment, and the stress about the quote that I've got to get in by Tuesday. It's look, I think we can coffee. Like get back to the coffee. I think that's a very acceptable substance at the moment, and it does take the edge off for a lot of people. And I think sleep is probably one of the most important things when it comes to recovery and feeling good about yourself long term.
There's a lot of science behind that, not just an I think.
and coffee for me, I know these days, like if I have one, even I'm after 2:00 in the afternoon, I'm not sleeping that night very well at all.
Yeah, there's good reason to not have caffeine either at all or to limit it at certain times of day, because sleep's much more important than.
Much more important. It's funny. Like after all the substance abuse and stuff, I haven't been able to really drink coffee or caffeine since then. I think something to do with my nervous system after it all. I just get really anxious whenever I have it now, and I don't sleep. Like I'll have just a little. Maybe I'm just super sensitive to substances now, and yeah, I'll have one in the afternoon, and I'll be up all night.
Yeah.
Means the cupboards will be very clean, but
But yeah, clean cupboards don't really help your mental health. They might a little bit.
especially with how physical our job is too. Like recovery for your body, I think is very important with this job. Maintaining some reasonable recovery time for yourself is important. Like I know when I have a bad night's sleep and I've had a really big day the day before, I'm sore for the rest of the week. It's yeah.
Yeah, and I think I know there's a lot of habits we can form that are healthy habits, and if we form healthy habits instead of unhealthy habits, then that helps us to be able to process those things which we might try and process through unhealthy habits. So if we form the more healthy habits, then we're in a much better place to deal with pain. We're in a much better place to deal with a sleep deficiency. We're in a much better place to deal with the physical toll that our job takes on us and all those different things that we get challenged with in life. And we're not getting younger. We need to be able to handle these things well and not turn ourselves into a wrecked old person.
Yeah, absolutely. And like those habits that you develop to kind of help you maintain a good mental state and a physical state, because they're both connected. We're not just operating out of a robot suit. It's all one thing. For me, I personally really have taken to meditation and a bit of yoga.
Yeah.
And that's been game changing for me.
Yeah.
For both my mental state and physical state, it's paramount to my daily functioning. So,
yeah, well, I'm constantly trying to make choices in line with what I believe is good for me, and there's spiritual component to that, but the physical component comes down to diet and exercise and rest, because exercise, you might think that's a bit strange when you're doing a physical job, but there's still need to make sure you've got balance in terms of your muscle groups being strengthened, and diet to make sure that your body's got the right nutrition it needs too. So all important things.
I'm right in the middle of that at the moment with getting balance back to some muscle groups. As I've explained, I had a bit of a wild upbringing, and there's a lot of old injuries that I'm dealing with at the moment. One being my ankle, and I've had plantar fasciitis for the last 6 months. Well, I'm on the other side of it now. But for those who don't know what that is, it's just a swelling of the heel. You can imagine being on our feet all day. It's a painful thing to deal with, and so I'm getting into the gym and doing that a couple of days a week and sorting out all the imbalances in the body. And it's funny, once I get there, I feel much better once I've actually done the thing. It takes a bit of initiative just to go there. My trick is I don't go home. I take the gym bag with me. I go straight to the gym or straight to the pool.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. So you said you were getting to the gym a bit yourself as well, or
no? I don't go to the gym. I refuse.
Mine's more I go to the pool, so I go
I try and make sure I am addressing exercise in a meaningful way, though. So running has been one of the things that I go to recently, but motorbike riding and mountain bike riding are things that I've appreciated over time. But now more and more, I'm starting to realize that my body benefits from targeting specific muscle groups, not just doing exercise for the sake of it. So mountain biking, for instance, when I was in school, my favorite thing to do was mountain biking. But I would get really sore shoulders and sore neck and headaches and things like that. And once I discovered that I did some upper body strengthening, I realized I could mountain bike a whole lot better and my upper body wouldn't get so sore in time.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Once you work out what those muscle groups are, I've just worked out that my quads for my lower back, like I've been having a little bit of lower back pain, and I've been working with a specialist for my foot, and he's put me onto a PT at the moment that's helped me with the lower back stuff as well. And yeah, as soon as I started working out that I need to strengthen those quads at the front there, and it's a big game changer for me. Like I'm not getting as much lower back pain.
Yeah.
I can stretch them out when it's sore, and they're feeling better after I've done that.
Yeah. Well, I've seen physiotherapists for several issues along the way, but lower back pain, I found an exercise that almost instantly cures it, and I'd hate to say it's a cure-all, but it kind of worked for me. And
Well, it goes back to what we were talking about before, like with the mental health side of things, and there's no one size fits all. You got to work. We all have developed through life differently, and our bodies are all very different. Our minds are all very different.
Yeah.
So trying different things and going and finding what works for you is paramount. And just stick with something for a little while. But if you're not getting results, try a few different things. Sample a few things.
You've got to find that way that works for you to be balanced and healthy. And, that means, like I said, for me, doing some upper body exercises at various different times, another one doing the exercises for the lower back pain, and another one.
I really hate that word balance. It really frustrates me. It really does, because it's I think we're always in flux. We're always going to have ups and downs, and I think we do want to taper those steep hills and try and get them a little bit more level. But you're always going to have a little bit of up and down, and so I think
yes,
people are trying to find that perfect balance, and I think that gets people lost a little bit. And I think there is meant to be a little bit of discomfort and feeling not always happy and good all the time. And I think that's important to understand for yourself. But it was for me anyway. I was chasing that perfect thing for a while,
Yeah, sometimes you need to be able to feel the pain, not just hide from it.
Yep. Lean into it. Yeah, lean into that.
Yeah, I'm not so keen on leaning into the back pain, but yeah.
We're a little bit all over the shop here, aren't we, Gary?
Oh, good. It's been fun getting into some of these more interesting topics that might be peripheral to working in gardens and lawn care, but still really important.
Yeah, and look, the garden for me was a big part of my recovery initially. Actually, funnily enough, in that first year that I kind of got off everything, I was gardening, and that was kind of what drew me back into the industry. After being out of it for 10 years,
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah, just find purpose and meaning in what you're doing. For me, I find a lot of purpose in what I do. I really enjoy giving people peace of mind and contributing to their house and their home. It's very gratifying.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well,
Cool.
Gavin, it's been good talking to you again.
You too.
Good to take a dive into these topics.
I think we should all talk about it a bit more. It's as humans with each other. It's.
I see a lot of value in having those phone numbers you can go to. It's anonymous and you can talk to somebody that you don't know. But there's also a lot of value in forming a support network with people that you do know, having an accountability partner to get through some things.
Absolutely. Yeah, reach out. Don't be afraid to talk to a counsellor or a psychologist or like you said, an accountability buddy. I think it's a very important thing to have.
Yeah, definitely.
Like your environment really does contribute to the way that you're experiencing the world. And for me, when I was in the thick of that substance abuse, I had to get away from the current environment that I was in and move away from that. And that was probably the hardest thing, I think, was leaving that lifestyle and creating a new one.
It's a massive challenge to break away from what you consider to be home. And sometimes you need to do that in order to get away from the problems.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't give up, guys. Just keep trying. It's worth it on the other side of it.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of value you can find in life having overcome these issues.
Yeah, I think finding examples too. For me, like I didn't really have a lot of good mentors or examples in my life growing up, and didn't see a lot of different ways to live. I think moving into the city in some ways was really good for me. Like moving into the urban inner city areas.
Yeah, okay.
Seeing different people and how they're living their life differently and experiencing things differently.
Yeah.
But now, like with finding mentors and people that I look up to, even whether that's a star or podcast or someone that I think that's doing good things in life, you can use that as a bit of a North Star to kind of work towards and
definitely
shape your different habits and lifestyle choices.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars. Do you want to leave your job to create a profitable and enjoyable lawn and garden business? Aussie Lawn Stars shares the stories, lessons and advice to help you grow a healthy, productive, efficient and sustainable business. Do you want more or simply have a question about what you heard? Contact Aussie Lawn Stars at iCloud.com or look me up, Gary Ashton, on Facebook and Messenger for individual help. Business coaching helps you to have the right mindset and perspective when it comes to daily decision-making, planning, or knowing what to look for to improve your business. thinktankcoaching.com.au has helped me, and they can help you move towards your business goals. Visit their website or email them, thinktankcoaching@outlook.com. If you want to establish the best practices in bookkeeping, accounting and business structure, contact Adrian from Prosper Financial on 0249 773363. And you all need to head to Lawn Mowing Contractors Australia and the Australian Professional Lawn Contractors Facebook groups for supportive communities focused on our industry.